Hey everybody, it's Adam. Today what I'm going to be talking about is the self-healing process. And while I kind of laugh when I say this and I like using the air quotes around it, it's not as goofy as it sounds. This is something that's really important when you're setting up processes, whether it's in your business or in your personal life. I mean, this could apply to simple things like making sure the groceries, get bought, or, the different, like your finance spreadsheet, tracking your personal finances is done correctly, things like that. So real quick, before we get into that though, if you haven't yet, check out productivity.academy/more. You can get signed up there for free. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, head over to the website. Got tons of reviews, app reviews, stuff like that. If you have questions, there's a contact form if you want to submit ideas. Or you haven't seen something that you'd like to see. Love getting the feedback and hearing from people. And then, especially with apps and stuff, there's so many out there that it's really fun to hear about what people are using and maybe like ideas for reviews and things like that. Because I've definitely got my productivity stack, like what I use, but I'm also looking at new things, and that's how I like to stay on top. Like Airtable is a really neat tool that I just started using, and I'll be doing some sort of a review or maybe an overview of how I'm using it in the near-ish future. So I'll commit to something in like the next 30 days, putting that out there. So, all right, so let's talk about the self-healing process. What I mean by this is setting up processes that you set up one time and it has built-in error correction from the beginning. Okay, and what I mean by this is, let's say, for example, you have a website, all right? And if you're an entrepreneur or you have a business or you work for a company, then, hopefully you have a website and there should be some content on it, and hopefully there's more content coming out. If you're in charge of this, you know that it can be a bit tedious, and while you might understand it, let's say you're handing this off to somebody. You've got an intern, you've got a VA, you've got a personal assistant, whatever it is. And you just say, okay, I'm going to write an article, or here's the process for writing, a roundup article, or whatever it is, go post it. All right. I think we can all agree that that is not a good process, but let's say we lay it out a little bit more. We have lots of steps. All right. We want to have an eye-catching title, not some clickbait, but we do want people to pay attention to it. We want a certain format. We want a clear introduction, right? We want the metadata interesting so people click through. Okay, so there's a lot of things to consider, and this is actually part of it, is being very clear in your process. Okay, so when you set these types of things up for yourself, go back to the beginning here where I was saying maybe this would help you do your personal finances. Instead of having a task that says do finances, maybe then have some steps to that. What is it you're actually doing? Do I need to enter something? Do I need, having that stuff listed out really helps you make sure that this is done correctly. All right, so that's the first part. The second part then would be to actually create that task and check the results. Okay, so what you can do, and what I mean by this, is that depending on how complicated the task is, you want to check the results, not necessarily the task. So let's go back to that building a blog post or a website post idea. And what you might do is, if somebody else is creating the post, perhaps once a week you go through the website and you look at the three biggest things, right? You look at the titles, you look at maybe the metadata, and you look at the featured image, right? Just make it up. Whatever's the three most important to you, and you're looking maybe for the grammar and that it's interesting, okay? And that then you don't need to be involved with putting the post together, but you're looking at the results, or the result, what I want. This could also be something else that you delegate out and you say, here's the three things I want to look at. All right, and a great part about these types of things, you can generally aggregate them or batch them, okay? And as part of this, what you would want to do is provide feedback. Again, I'm using the example of handing something off, but this could be feedback to yourself, this could be feedback to a VA, something like that, or this could be automated feedback, okay? So there's a lot you can do here, but a lot of this, if you're working with people, this is very handy. If, let's say, again, the blog post idea where you're working with someone to get them into this role, provide feedback. If you're making a change to it, and you said, the grammar wasn't quite right, the title was a little off, have that step where whatever it is, maybe you're using Trello and you have a task for this, and you say once a week, I'm going to go through, look at the posts. If there's a correction made, I copy it, I put it into Skype or Slack or however I communicate with that person, all right? And then last but not least is to set a review date for that task. I think this is also really important, for the process/task. go over it. Don't just let it wander off on its own. This is kind of the last resort. If you can't really come up with a great way to do some error correction within the test, like I've been talking about, then your last chance, I guess, is to schedule a review of the task itself and see if it's working. And, this is totally up to you. It depends on the task. If it's a really frequent task, maybe it's not needed as much, but maybe every 30, 60, 90 days, you have some sort of a review where you go through it and go through the steps with the person doing it and say, hey, is this working? Okay, let's look at the results recently. Okay, is it working? No. What changes do we need to be made? And go from there. So really hope this helps. This is something that I'm working on improving and putting into more structure throughout my businesses. And I think it's really important and very helpful. So I'll be kind of formalizing this and putting together some more information on this. If you're interested in it, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.